Hashtag restore the Snyderverse.
Hashtag restore the Snyderverse. Welcome to the RZ. We are going to be talking about the infamous Snyder Cut today. I'm here with Doris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Doris.
We both have watched the Snyder Cut and have different histories with Snyder's filmography. I was really excited to hear it came out because I had enjoyed his films, all of them actually, and was looking forward to seeing his vision manifest, or his vision be able to be viewed by a lot of people. And
I am someone who had no idea about the Snyder Cut and hadn't seen the first version of the Justice League.
So we're going to talk a little bit today about our initial impressions watching the Snyder Cut for the first time. And then later we'll talk a little bit about the comparisons between the 2017 version and this most recent version of Zack Snyder's vision. So I just want to preface this with, this isn't a thorough review. We're just giving our initial impressions, as well as the fact that this is a film that is steeped in superhero lore and mythology, and is at the same time a blockbuster Hollywood movie. So I don't think we're looking for anything that's going to delve into the sublime of the modern human condition or something. This is a fun movie that is beautifully shot and is basically popcorn movie that looks super good. So, do you want to start out with just your initial impression of the movie? Can I just say, to preface it, you weren't exactly thrilled to watch a 4-hour movie?
Yeah, I was actually thinking I was not going to make it through the movie because I don't think that would have been my first choice for a movie. I'm not really like a superhero kind of person movie. I mean, I enjoy it. I've watched some Avengers movies and some X-Men and some Batman and Superman, but it's not something I would choose by myself. I usually watch it because someone else wants to watch it, so I just tag along.
And you hadn't seen any of his superhero movies, right?
No, and I think I watched, to be honest, I can't remember. I think I watched Man of Steel, but I'm not
Or 300, I thought you were saying.
Oh, 300, yeah, and I really liked it. And I think I watched Man of Steel, but I can't remember. But I didn't watch Batman versus Superman.
So it left a really good impression.
Yeah, but I didn't watch Batman versus Superman. I actually just heard from my brother that he was actually kind of disappointed. He's really into superhero movies, and he didn't really like or enjoy the movie. And yeah, I didn't hear about the Justice League, the first version. I didn't hear about all what happened around it, and I had no idea. And then I watched this movie, and I was I was really impressed. I really like the film. I thought I was gonna get bored because I felt like 4 hours is just a long time to sit down. I watched it into like
Sittings.
2 sittings, yeah. So yeah, it wasn't so long, and I actually wanted to keep on watching it, but it was just late at night, and yeah, I had to stop. But it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. Even though I'm not super familiar with all the characters' history, I actually could understand just the story of each one of the characters, their motivations, and the film looked incredible. Like, there's some really nicely shot scenes. I really like the scenes where Batman is going to look for Aquaman, and those scenes where he is with his horse and just arriving there.
It looked like Planet Earth almost, or something, the way the camera was going over some very beautiful Icelandic landscape.
Yeah, I really, really like it. It looked Yeah, I think when we talked about it, we said it looked like the Lord of the Rings kinds of
Hmm.
shots.
Yeah, that's, I think, what stands out with Zack Snyder in general is that he has very beautiful movies and they have a distinct visual style. A lot of people think of his original 300 with slow motion, and it was shot at a very high rate, I believe. So there were a lot more pictures within each frame. That's what allowed him to be able to slow down the images to that degree. But that's what I think stands out, even in contrast to Marvel films, which sometimes have very concise plot developments and character development that sometimes Zack Snyder's films don't necessarily have at first glance, but they just look really good. I heard him say once in an interview that he didn't want to film anything that he couldn't take a picture of. And I think that that represents his film style very well.
Yeah, it looked awesome. Like, to be honest, so if we're talking first just about general impression, I really like the movie. I really like how it was shot, and I really like kind of like the tones, because I know there's different color grading than the first Justice League. So I really enjoyed the movie. I liked it. I understood everything. I was really into it. I was really entertained, even though it was really long. And then to compare, I watched the first version of the Justice League, and yeah, I think if I hadn't watched the second version, I might have thought that the first version was just fine. I'm not like a huge fan of like superhero movies, so probably I would just like, oh yeah, it was like an entertaining movie. But after seeing the Snyder cut, I was like, oh yeah, it just has like so much like if I hadn't had someone there explaining me what the story was about or who the characters were, I probably wouldn't have understood quite a few things. Like, I don't think I would have understood like what the boxes were.
Which nobody understood at that when it first came out, I think. For anyone who hasn't seen it, the Snyder Cut and the other one, they all have to do with these three mother boxes, which people would say is a MacGuffin. Basically, it's a reason for all the events of a movie to take place. For instance, in Pulp Fiction, that briefcase sometimes is considered a MacGuffin because people are wanting the briefcase, but they never see what's inside of it. In this case, it's the mother boxes, which are going to end the world. Just a very brief summary of that. And you understand, though, why they function and how they function, what their purpose is, as well as the motivation of the villain. The original one, you just know that they're there and they're bad and they're going to end the world. And the villain is a bad guy and he wants to end the world. And that's really all you understand. You don't realize that the villain has larger motivations to try to get these boxes and how the boxes really work, because they talked about them being like change machines. They change matter into different things, where in the 2017 version they didn't talk about that at all. They were just these things to end the world. So yeah, I think, but going back to what you were saying, I agree that what was really powerful about that movie, or fulfilling, was to see that all the characters, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Cyborg, Batman, Superman, you really see a larger story arc. So you see who they were, where they were at, and how they have to overcome certain obstacles in order to come together and save the world, like any good superhero movie. But yeah, so you really understand why they're doing that. Where I would say the 2017 version, they have to do that, but the motivations are unclear. On the one hand, Wonder Woman's skeptical about some things, but then she's for it. Batman's kind of the leader, but then she is supposed to be the leader, but they don't really develop these story arcs. They just kind of, it's all this mishmash thrown together to try to come up with a story about saving the world.
Yeah, and I think with the Snyder Cut, I think all of the main characters, they all have their own moment to shine. Even Cyborg's dad and like all that, they all have their own moment.
Yeah, that's true, because I think that you see them coming together, but you also see, Wonder Woman save some hostages in an area. Aquaman has to deal with some of his own shit, and you see how he's been helping people, and Cyborg is struggling with being, Terminator. And
Robocop.
yeah, that's probably better. Yeah. And then the Flash is kind of an not so confident person who later has to be very key.
Yeah, and you see he also has like a strong motivation because also his dad.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's our view of the Snyder Cut.
This is a brief intermission.
Now we're going to talk about some of the scenes that stood out to us, and we're going to go chronologically through the movie and have some comparisons with the 2017 version along the way. So if you haven't seen it yet, there might be some mild spoilers, or there will be spoilers. So just be aware of that. And if you're planning on sitting down for half of a workday and consuming the movie, maybe stop here and then come back later. Maybe I'll start. I think that the opening stood out to me because you see Superman dying essentially and crying out, and this triggering the whole events of the movie. And that also ends where Batman and Superman left off. So that really was a great opening because you realize this is a tragic thing as well as a thing that will initiate these mother boxes becoming awake and the bad guy coming down. So I think that was a really nice scene for me to see, because the 2017 version, you have this goofy cell phone interview with Superman with some kids, and it just comes across as weird. It's not necessarily bad, but it's just like a YouTube version of a movie, and it's not very epic or something. So this sets up like the fact that this is going to be a super epic movie.
Yeah, I did really like the opening of the first version of the Justice League, because I thought the video, like, I didn't get it. Like, the kids were trying, I don't know, to ask some questions, but it just kind of like seemed, well, I don't know. I didn't really like it. I didn't understand like the point. And then there was this like thing where Superman looked really weird, because I guess they did Photoshop, which I did see like memes back in the day, but I didn't watch the movie, so I didn't get what it was until now.
Yeah, because he had under his contract for Mission Impossible, he couldn't shave his mustache, so they had to digitally remove it, which made him look not as bad as some people thought. I don't think, but I mean, it's pretty impressive what they can do with CGI, but it still looked like a misshaped face or something.
I don't know. I think the movie could have started somewhere else, or they could have just removed that scene, because it made no sense for me. I know if they just want to make like some, because he doesn't
seem human or something.
Yeah, but it doesn't even say that he's dead or anything. Like in the other movie of like the Snyder Cut, you know, okay, yeah, he's dying, and you see all these like cry, like just this screaming that goes like
across the world,
and then you see how people are being aware, and all these boxes are starting to shake, and then you like it sets the whole movie. So even though it's just the intro, but I feel like it's a very powerful intro, even though I was asking the whole time, who is that? What's happening? What's going on? Because I didn't know. I didn't watch Batman vs. Superman, so I had no idea Superman had died.
But you knew more with this movie because you see him dying at the beginning than just like a weird... If you hadn't seen the other ones and you just saw this weird thing with Superman, it would be kind of hard to understand. What is something that stood out to you from chapter 1?
Well, one of the things that I really liked from the Snyder Cut was in chapter 1 was the Amazons, because they seem like very powerful women. And there's this scene, that scene where they're guarding the box. I don't remember I think the queen screams like, Amazon,
who do you fear? Or show them your
fear. And they say like, we have no fear. And I was like, oh, that's so powerful.
Yeah, because the bad guy says, I will, something like feast on your fear or something like that. And then she was like,
yeah, show them your fear. We have no fear.
Which was really good. And I think also then after that section when they're fighting him, it's pretty nice because she's leaving and they're closing these gates. And then after they do the whole structure where they're guarding the box, it all falls into the ocean. So that means all the people that were guarding it sacrificed their lives to guard it. And that's a pretty powerful thing too, juxtaposed to the 2017 version where they just slide out and then the guy slices through the door.
Yeah, I think one of the things too, and it repeats every time what's his name, Steppenwolf gets or goes to get like a box. It's just that in the Snyder cut, you see like real struggle and real fight, and people like really wanting to hold on to the box and defend it. Whereas in the first version, it's just kind of he comes and takes it, and then he goes just like, yeah, super easy. Because when I first saw, even before seeing how Steppenwolf looked in the first version, when I saw Steppenwolf come into, I was like, oh wow, this guy seems like invincible, because like his armor or whatever, it looked like, I don't know, just like indestructible. And
Yeah, it's all like a bunch of like almost scale like armor that also has some spikes in it. It looks like you wouldn't even want to touch him without getting hurt.
yeah, whereas I feel like in the other movie, it looked more, I think they tried to make him more human or something. I don't know, but it just didn't look as like invincible. It just looked like very strong and powerful, but it didn't look like
Like I think in the first one he looked more like maybe like an orc or something with some armor. Where in the
yeah.
other one he was like almost entirely surrounded by this impenetrable armor, and as well as being, I think, a little bit bigger too.
Yeah, I think it looked bigger. But it does, yeah, it did look like huge.
And his
Like,
voice was better too. Like,
yeah. I think the other scene we thought about, it was like the Wonder Woman scene when she is protecting some people in a building in a bank. I think it was a
yeah,
bank, right?
I think so.
Yeah, and I really like the scene. I really like the scene because I think
Which is to say, it's similar to the original one.
yeah, I think it's the same scene. It's just like shorter.
Yeah, they just cut out a few small things. The music was different, which gave it a very different feel. And then the ending kind of ends a lot different, or actually just cuts out the normal ending from the Snyder cut. In the original one, she saves his bank, and then it cuts to another scene. And you want to explain the ending of that scene?
Oh yeah, but the end of the scene with Wonder Woman in the bank, like first it lasts longer, it gives more space, and
So you also see some more of the action, I think, because she
Yeah.
blocks some more bullets, and
instead, because I think she gets like a bomb. There was a bomb, and then in the first version, she just throws the suitcase, the bomb, like through the roof of the bank. Whereas in the Snyder cut, she jumps, and while she's in the air, like outside of the building, she throws the bomb, and then it explodes in the air. Yeah, it looked much. Yeah, just had more time to develop, and at the end, apparently there was like this. Well, she saved a bunch of little girls, and there was in specific that she calls Princess, and she asks if she's okay, and then the little girl asks Wonder Woman if she can be like her when she grows up, and then Wonder Woman tells her she can be anything she wants, which I think it's really nice. Moving on.
okay, so moving on. In chapter 3, we have the scene of Cyborg before he's a cyborg. And
That was so good.
yeah, so he's playing football, and we see that he's a top athlete.
I really like that scene, the whole cyborg story, because I think that you understand also perfectly how he feels about his father, because I think he just really truly cares about him and loves him, but he's disappointed that his father is never there, even like in super important times like this game where he just scores winning points and he is just not there.
Yeah, because I think, well, additionally, you see his mother. So you see that Cyborg's mother's there to support him, and he really wants his dad there, but his dad isn't there. And so you see not only he's a top athlete, and so he can use his body like physically very well, and that's important to him, as well as his family is really important. And those things are taken away when he loses his mom in a car accident and his body, essentially.
Yeah, and also something, because I think you also hear, so one thing that he's like a good nature person, because he was even trying to help one of his friends.
Oh, that too. Yeah, I think after the game, or somewhere around there, they take him to the principal and they say, we found out that your son hacked into the system, which kind of also foreshadows him becoming a cyborg and being able to hack into stuff. Your son hacked into the system in order to give this girl a passing grade.
Yeah, and then I think the mom says like, "Oh, my son tried to help this girl because she's in a really hard situation." And then she asks the principal, "What did you do to help her?"
Yeah, so you see that
they're all like just good natured, but also like going back to Cyborg, just because he's just like disappointed in his father because he loves him and he truly cares about him. And I think that comes back later in the movie, because even though he's angry at him or like mad at him for not being there, he still loves him. And you can see that later in the movie.
Yeah, so you see that Cyborg is a character who wants to help people and really cares about his family. So then he's kind of put to the test later on. But speaking of that scene with the girl who he helps with the grade, you later see when he's a cyborg is they actually added that scene where he helps this woman who is a single mom and she's struggling paying the rent and raising her kids. And then he basically, through the technology that he's able to apprehend all of these situations, and he just puts digital money in her bank and that she won something and she's excited. And you see that he has this kind of Robin Hood type character, like he wants to help the weaker people. So that really adds to the cyborg character, which isn't in the original one at all, but also really fleshes out stuff. So I think that he has this kind of Robin Hood helping character as well as, really caring for family, which he hasn't had in a lot of his life.
Well, that transitions then to the accident that he had with his mom, where his mom dies, and then he's just kind of there, but not really. So to help him, then his dad decides to make him this cyborg thing using one of the mother boxes. So
make him a freak.
Yeah. No.
But a really badass freak.
Yeah. So, but then you see the struggle, and then you see him like still like being resentful to his dad because he turned him into like some
aberration or something.
Yeah.
So he starts out that way, and then that also story-wise gives a lot of leeway, because then they can kind of show through time when he appreciates his dad. Like, I think...
Oh, yeah, and we forgot to say something super important, that he actually has in his apartment, Cyborg, one of the mother boxes.
But then speaking back to the resentment with his father, we see that he doesn't like the fact that he made him that. But then we also see in the third chapter when they attempt to rescue the hostages that the bad guy has taken to try to find out where that third mother box is, he rescues his dad.
Oh, yeah, because Steppenwolf has taken basically a bunch of people hostage, and one of the people that he takes is Cyborg's dad.
And then I think when he rescues him, he says, "Oh, I didn't know that you would come," and he says something like,
"You're my father."
Yeah, you're my father. So you see that, oh yeah, like despite the resentment, he still has this...
He cares about him.
Yeah, and he has this connection to family. And then another scene that I think was improved upon, well, there are many, but I'm looking now, following that, the next chapter you had when they have to break in, well, okay, first when they decide to bring Superman back to life, it makes more sense because they realize that the mother boxes can bring things back to life. And you have some doubt, but the team is kind of going together, where in the other one, there's people saying like, oh, maybe we don't because we don't know what's going to happen, and then this and that.
Sorry, because before that, I just also wanted to say, because when Cyber has a box, in his thing, and then he meets Wonder Woman, and then, but you don't see him realizing the importance of the box, I think, until after they rescue the people, because then he realizes, I think, that Steppenwolf is looking for the box, and then he gets the boxes, and then he brings it to the Batcave. But before that, he had hidden the box in his own grave. which was like really kind of interesting because I think he had seen the box shaking, and then he took it with him, and then he buried in his own grave
Next to his mother's.
Yeah, because for the world, or except for his dad, he was dead. And you see him struggling and just taking and putting the box there. And then once he realized that the box is what Steppenwolf was looking for, then he gets it and he brings it to the Batcave. Yeah, but anyway, so just because at some point, just like Cyborg in the first version of the movie, he just appears with a box, but you don't know why he has a box. How come? Where did he get it from? So I think that's something that's really well explained in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah. And also when they're going to bring Superman back to life, some of the camera work is a little bit dizzying and I'm not a huge fan of, but it's certainly better than the Josh Whedon version where they're just standing around talking and it's kind of this like portrait shots of each person. But they are more a team doing it and they're kind of discussing stuff, where the other one, they kind of have this, oh, are we going to do it? Are we not? And then without really thinking about the larger implications. So I feel like in the Snyder Cut, they thought, we have to bring Superman back because this Steppenwolf asshole is going to take over the world and this is really bad. And so we need to do everything in our power that we can in order to save the world. Where the other one kind of had this discussion, almost ignoring the fact that the world was going to be destroyed.
Well, I think in the first one, it was just Wonder Woman that didn't want to bring back Superman. But I think in the second one, it was just more like Aquaman just being a little like I don't know, sketchy.
Moody.
Yeah. But I forgot. I wanted to say that in the scene where they were rescuing the hostages that Steppenwolf had, where Cyborg rescues his dad, there's a scene, I think it's there, where Steppenwolf tells Wonder Woman, "You're mine," or something like that.
Oh, he says like, so the other, his like parademons, his little minions, they're all attacking her, and he says, "Leave this one, she's mine," or something like that.
And in the Snyder Cut, I love when she says like, "I belong to no one." But then in the first version, she's like, "You overestimate yourself."
Yeah, so it was just like this.
Like
and she says it unconvincingly, but it also is just like a random, just like, oh, you overestimate yourself, instead of being like
I think it's just like more powerful. It's like, yeah, no, I belong to no one.
Yeah, so she came across as such a stronger character in the Snyder Cut, where she's talking to like the young woman is like, oh, you can be like me. She's also seen as somebody who, is very confident and powerful. And not that she's not in the other one. I mean, so a lot of people have commented on this, but there's also the fact that in the other one, the Josh Whedon version, she is a little bit more objectified. So I saw
there's also this scene where like the Flash ends up on top of her because after they fight or something,
and then he's looking all awkward in this like kind of jokey sort of way. But it's like, Jesus Christ, you guys are fighting this like huge ass guy who's trying to take over the world, and then you're gonna be like all like, ooh, weird because like you fell on top of her. It's so stupid.
Yeah, and it was just like kind of out of place. I feel like in the Snyder Cut, she's just like a part of the team, regardless of whether she's like this beautiful woman. She's just part of the team, and she's just equal to the other ones, and they're just trying to fight together as a team to defeat this evil guy who's invading the earth. And
one thing that we should probably bring up, because we're kind of going out of order now, I realize.
Yeah, sorry for this messy review and analysis, but it's just a conversation.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that started earlier but then shows up later in a cut, so it's kind of like sort of chronological, but not quite. But you have Lois Lane.
Oh, yeah, we totally forgot to tell the story about Lois Lane, which just we didn't too forgot to tell the story about.
He forgot the story of Cyborg and Lois Lane, and anyone who is black or female, he forgot to tell the story of.
Yeah, no, because, I think, we forgot everything. So the Lois Lane story, basically in the first version, is almost non-existent. There's just like this kind of few scenes at the beginning of the movie when the music is rolling and the beginning credits or whatever are going on. And then you see her kind of like, dwelling a little bit, but not so much. And there's just, I can't remember where this scene is, where where Superman's mom, Martha,
Yeah.
goes to talk to Lois, which I think the scene in the Just Whedon movie, I don't think. I mean, it was just like a fine scene. It was just a very random scene. It was just like almost like some couple of like friends that hadn't seen in a while, and it was just like catching up, whatever. Kind of, I don't know. Whereas in the second movie, in the Snyder cut, it's like a very emotional scene where both of them are just still grieving because they are going through like a really hard time. And you also, yeah, the only thing I didn't like about that scene in the Snyder cut is that, like, yeah, it's super emotional. You see them both like struggling. And then Marta leaves, and you realize it's not really Marta, it's this Martian person.
Yeah, Martian Manhunter, the Justice League figure. I will say that is one scene where I think, what the f? Because I don't know why he did that. Now, in other scenes, you could say, well, he could be behind the scenes manipulating stuff in order to, to benefit the world or something. But that scene was just like, okay, he's there and he is grieving with her to help her through her grief, maybe. But I don't know why they had him there.
Yeah, I feel like if they wanted to put him somewhere, maybe they could have chosen a different scene because that scene was really emotional. It also almost made me like teared up a little bit because it's really, yeah, you see them like it's really, yeah, it's a really good scene. And then, yeah, all the emotions gone when you see the Martha turning into this Martian Manhunter. So,
And
yeah.
I think a couple things that I think about that. I think that they should not have had him in there that moment. Now, spoiler, he shows up at the end.
I think we've had a lot of spoilers.
Yeah. So, but here's what I think. Zack Snyder was trying to bring in the entire Justice League because he wanted to have, apparently he wanted to have Green Lantern at the very end, but they didn't let him have that because they want to have their own Green Lantern announcement and stuff. So I think he had that there in order to show the full Justice League where it's like, oh, now Martian Manhunter's there, Green Lantern's there. And so you have the traditional cast of the Justice League all together in one movie, but they didn't let him have that. But because they didn't let him have that, they shouldn't have had him take over that grieving scene with Lois because it doesn't really connect. It doesn't have a larger goal other than like, okay, he showed up there to help Lois grieve. Was he paying attention to the news and Superman's dead? But why did he do it? It lacked motivation. I didn't really like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just like he was just there in one scene and then at the very end. So I just think they could have just taken that part away and then it would just have been like a more powerful scene.
And then another scene that was improved upon. I don't know if it was one of my highlight scenes, but it was definitely an improvement was when Superman came back from the dead.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
So
yeah, also because in the Snyder cut when they're just like there in the spaceship, I think Cyborg because I think like Flash was gonna like run super fast so to create energy, and then Cyborg was going to, I don't know, do something with the mother box, but he had like a vision
of the future where Aquaman and Wonder Woman and all these other people are killed by Darkseid.
But I think Cyborg was supposed to count, I think 1, 2, 3, go or something, and then like Flash was getting ready to start running and generate all this energy, and then he was like waiting and telling Cyborg like, "Hey, what's going on?" I think Cyborg, after seeing the vision, I think he said no, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But I think Flash understood. Go? Oh, okay. And then he started running and then generated all the energy, and finally, like, they were able to bring Superman back to life. Oh yeah, another thing that I like about the scene when they are in the farm or in his old house is because she's wearing an engagement ring. And I really like when he says, like, I'll take that as a yes, just by seeing the ring, and she didn't say anything. And I don't know, it was a really sweet moment.
So that didn't really have as much, basically that whole arc didn't have as much substance because it wasn't taken seriously, which I think is a common thread. Now, at the time, 2017, Marvel was making shit tons of money. I mean, it was just like dump trucks full of money dumping on Disney's doorstep. And so I think that Warner Brothers wanted to replicate that. But looking back, you see that, okay, this was kind of sort of shoehorned in. It wasn't there from the beginning. And it benefited by having a little bit more of a serious tone. Now, there are jokes in it. It was funny, actually. There are points when you laugh, but it wasn't this cheap, non-serious laughter. So I think the difference is in Zack Snyder, you have really serious stakes, and the jokes aren't made.
Mostly by Flash, I think, in the Snyder Cut, but it fits him well.
Where I think in Joss Whedon's version, like in a lot of the Avengers movies, they're cracking jokes like while they're almost going to be killed. So then you know the whole time, well, they're...
I think we also talk about it, because I think in the Joss Whedon thing, it was... Because I think we said something like... it seemed like, yeah, there was some evil guy, but yeah, we were going to defeat it. And yeah, it's just some other random evil guy. Whereas in the Snyder Cut, it seemed more serious because it was like, oh, there is this evil guy who wants to take over the world. And
we might lose.
Yeah. And then so there's always this kind of like tension and like worry or like just, which to me fits a little better.
Yeah. Oh, it fits much better. Yeah, because I think the other times, and I enjoy the Marvel movies as well, for good or ill. I'm not sure if I'm really proud of that, but I'm admitting it here. So I do enjoy the Marvel movies, but I also know that they essentially take part in a very familiar formula. So there's sort of a classical screenwriting formula that they engage in. At the same time, they have this nonchalance, this non-serious take on things.
Yeah, as an example, just Thor being fat.
Where at Snyder, it's a little more like, oh, this is like a really shitty world, and we're trying to deal with it, and maybe we will live, maybe we won't.
Yeah, and just as an example, just going way ahead of the movie. Actually, to the extra scenes at the end of the movie. One of those examples is just like like Superman and this Deathstroke people, and I don't know, like just being in this alternate universe and then just like suddenly finding themselves between an evil Superman.
Yeah, so in the Snyderverse, for anyone who wonders but doesn't want to spend the time watching the movie, we can tell you now. In Batman vs. Superman, you have this nightmare reality. So Bruce Wayne experiences a vision, a premonition of a future reality where Superman is evil and in cahoots with Darkseid. And so they have taken over the Earth, and Batman has been working with other people in order to try to be a resistance to this evil rule. And so you see kind of this nightmare future, and you see that also at the end of Justice League. And that is really would be also, a lot of people want to see that movie. I would totally watch that movie. But where it's like, oh yeah, so you have this twist where...
Restore the Snyderverse.
Exactly. So yeah, so you have essentially this twist where Superman, maybe he loses Lois Lane, or he somehow loses his connection to humanity and the Earth, and then becomes evil and essentially creates a authoritarian just hellscape that people are trying to, like
you would call it, like a Mad Max.
Like Mad Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Mad Max, but even worse. So in the Snyderverse, you actually have this really terrible future that might happen, and maybe it does. There is kind of a sense that maybe it did happen in a different timeline or something. But yeah, so you have a trajectory of something really, really bad that actually could and does, or maybe even does happen, and you don't really have those stakes in the Joss Whedon version. But let's then backtrack. Before that, you have the end scene where Superman comes back to life. They go to fight Steppenwolf. What stood out to me in the final act was not only that it was much better executed, but that the Flash played a significant role.
Oh yeah, he was super important. Also, into that, also they had a plan, and you as a viewer knew what the plan was. So it was just not like, I don't know, something random that they were just gonna try to do. No, everyone knew what they were gonna do. So I think that was like really good because in the other movie, like in the first version, like Cyborg suddenly put his hands in the box, but you didn't know why, what for, what was going on. Whereas in the other one, like, yeah, they had a plan. So you knew what they were gonna do.
And you knew why it would be difficult to do it.
Yeah. And they were still also not sure that Superman was gonna be there, but Batman had hope. And
Faith.
he told, faith. And he told Alfred.
Yeah, so you have a flip side with Batman from Batman vs. Superman, where in Batman vs. Superman, he thinks that if there's 1% chance that Superman would turn on humanity, that's why you have to kill him, because he could kill all of humanity. And then in Justice League, you see that he actually is the one against Alfred who is saying, hey, like, we need to bring him back, and I have faith that this is going to turn out okay. And even I'm going to have faith, furthermore, that he's going to show up and help us.
And he did.
And he did. So then at the end, there are a couple of things happening. One is Superman comes back and kind of saves their asses from Steppenwolf, who's going to kill him because he's too powerful. And two, Cyborg is faced with a choice because his dad has died, his mom has died, and when he goes in, because the mother box has brought him back to life, he's able to access that. So when he goes in to access that, he's kind of presented with his family.
Yeah. And that was also a powerful scene because, yeah, he enters kind of like the boxes, whatever, alternate or inside reality. I don't know how to call that. But then he sees himself, his dad, and his mom. And they look also happy. And then they basically like, oh, yeah, you can be with us or whatever.
Like, we could make you whole and like a whole family again and your body whole again, kind of a thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. They say something because to whatever they say, then Cyborg just looks at them and just says like, I'm not alone.
Or no, does he say like, I'm not broken.
I'm not broken. And I'm not alone.
Yeah, so he's essentially accepting his friendships and as well as his, I think he's accepting
just
himself.
Overcoming like all the difficulties he's had so far, and just embracing who he is.
Yeah.
And I think that's powerful too.
Yeah, but then I can't remember if that happens first or what I'm going to explain, but so essentially you have these critical moments that you don't have in the other version. So you have Cyborg actually faced with this choice of what he wants. Like he loved, like family was a huge thing to him, and his body when he was able to perform football. And so he sees both his mom and dad together and his body back intact as a full human. And he is essentially, given that choice, and he makes the choice to accept himself as he is. And then you have the Flash, where everything is destroyed and Darkseid is going to win. And the Flash has been wounded and he's hurting and he can't actually generate the charge that is needed. Don't worry about all the details, but he got wounded and he wasn't able to do what he needed to do. And so everything is basically being eviscerated, and he engages. This is a very superhero kind of trope. So he engages in like going beyond the speed of light, which reverses time in a way. If you've made it this far, then you've already accepted the conditions of watching a superhero movie.
Hashtag restore the Snyderverse.
Hashtag restore the Snyderverse. But we won't go into the physics of everything. But he's running beyond the speed of light, which is reversing time. And so
and he even says something like, oh, I'm breaking the rules, or I have to break the rules or something.
Yeah. So he's running and actually reconstituting the physical reality that has slowly been disappearing in front of him. I will also say it's a visually pleasing scene too, because it just looks great. Like as reality and time are reconstituting themselves. And that, though those are two of the scenes at the end, which are way different than the other Justice League version, that are just really great, I think, because like visually they look good. So one is more, and I wouldn't say visually so great, the Cyborg one, but it's really personally good for his story, because you see like, oh, he's presented with his choice. And the Flash one, it has that, but it also has just like this visual.
Yeah, and it adds also something else, because while the Flash is running to generate also like the energy, he gets wounded. So like everything kind of goes a little bit south.
Like there were moments when you thought that they might not be able to save the world. And then I think just to kind of wrap things up,
Yeah. Well, I just think I hope they really do restore the Snyderverse, because it'd be interesting to see what Snyder would do with that alternate reality and how would that develop. And I think the Joker was a really good character in that ending scene. And yeah, so it'd be interesting to see if Warner Brothers stops wanting to be like the Avengers or Marvel, and just try to find out like that they're unique in their own way and just give the fans what they want.
one note that I do want to make regarding the differences, there's such a difference of the colors. So when you look at the Snyder Cut, it has more often like some blue tones and different things. And in the final battle,
I think in the Just Whedon there was like more red tone kind of.
it was like way oversaturated with red. And then they had all that weird kind of organic stuff growing out of the ground that looked really fake.
Yeah, that was just attacking one family.
Yeah, that's also a big issue in that version, that they had this one random Russian family living in this area, like
There
Chernobyl.
was nothing.
But yeah, but then also with the colors too, like it was just oversaturated with this redness at the end, and some of the colors at the beginning too. They didn't have this like somber tones. They had this just kind of like matter of fact look to them, kind of like a Marvel movie. To be honest, you can, whatever people say about Marvel, they have a very bland color palette, I would say, for their movies. So it doesn't really have a lot of vibrancy to it and a lot of mood. It's just kind of this matter of fact type filming, like a soap opera filming almost.
Yeah, I don't know if it's soap opera, but oh yeah. Yeah, the Snyder Cut looks very, very different, but it looks really good. It looks like a really good movie, and it's not just like uh, bringing up random jokes at random points. It was just more like the jokes were carried by Flash, and I thought that was really good because he's like a young guy who had like that kind of quirky personality and just could bring the jokes. He could carry like the jokes well, while
So
the
they
other
had
ones.
they had like a comic relief figure, but not everyone was comical.
Yeah, no, which I think it was really good, and the jokes were well placed. It was not just like a random, or he was just not being like kind of like stupid. Like when Batman shows up at his place in the first movie, and then he's just like run. Oh no, when he goes to the Batcave, and then he's just running like a little kid, just like wanting to watch everything, because he's young, but he's not a kid.
Which is maybe a little bit of the problem, where you might say, okay, did Zack Snyder need to have a 4-hour movie? First of all, pretty impressive. I mean, this is like Tarkovsky level. But at the same time, could they cut some stuff out? Probably. But what is disappointing in the other movie was they just cut out a lot of good stuff and story development and added a bunch of random shit, like Aquaman stealing something, Flash just being like a stupid child, and Batman never taking anything seriously, but then other areas he would take stuff seriously. Wonder Woman being a little bit objectified. And so it was just, the whole thing wasn't, when you watch it, it's like, yeah, it's not surprising. It was kind of like you said, if you would have watched it, you would have been like, oh yeah, just some random superhero movie.
Yeah, I think I may have not gotten every little detail because I didn't know the backstory. But I think I would have felt like, oh yeah, it's an entertaining movie. But I'm not a big fan, so I wouldn't have noticed all the little details that like the big fans were disappointed by.
So anyway, that's our
discussion. Very messy review.
Yeah.
Sorry about this disorganization. We were just planning to, I don't know. We wanted to have a conversation just about the movie and just like give our impressions. I think our impressions were all over the place though.
But hashtag restore the Snyderverse.
Hashtag restore the Snyderverse.
And until the next time,
Bis die Tage.
bis die Tage.